Welcome to the Palisadoes Foundations Calico Challenge presentation for the Quito open source project. For those of you who don't know, the Palisadoes Foundation LLC is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization registered in California. It was conceived by a group of Jamaican technology professionals interested in assisting in the continued development of new and existing technologies in Jamaica. Our principal activity is the Calico Challenge, where each year we sponsor summer internships for university students studying in Jamaica. The students' work develops open source software projects under the guidance of a professional mentor. Stipends are paid upon achieving predefined milestones. The Quito project that you're about to see has David Bain from Alteroo as the mentor, with students Javier Bryan, Phillip Llewellyn, and Dimitri Johnson as students. Quito is a mobile app that aims to help automate church and small project coordination. David, take it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Peter. So I was privileged to work with this small team, 3 guys out of UA. They're all first years, and their focus was implementing a solution to an open source solution to church management. Now, instead of trying to boil the ocean, what we decided to do was focus on one module that worked around projects, and you'll see that in the presentation. So without any more delay, I'm just going to hand over to Phillip Llewellyn, who will chair the presentation with his fellow presenters, Javier Bryan and Dimitri Johnson.
Great. Thanks again, Mr. David Bain, and for handing over to me. And my name is Phillip Llewellyn, and I was one of the developers for the Quito projects for this summer. And today we'll be speaking on the Quito project and how our experience was during this project and working with an open source organization developing a project away from the bottom to the top. 5 main points today. So we'll be discussing on our challenge, the product, which will include our demo, what we learned during the 3 months, and to do, and the things that we should do, or the things that we expect to be done after in the coming year. So the first one is our challenge. So in the beginning, we were given a challenge for the problem that we were supposed to solve, and that problem was with churches not normally having a paper-based system or an outdated system to manage its activities, or sometimes it's a tedious process in keeping track of the members and the projects. This can cause bad communication with your visitors, and whenever they have to manage multiple events, that can become very problematic at times. Before we started developing on the project, research was done in order to gain information on what the users would like and what other systems that might be out there that could solve that issue. And we were able to gain valuable information from a Figma prototype that was created from various interviewees. But let's just cut to the chase with our product demonstration. But first, let me tell you a story about a person called Deacon John Paul. So Deacon John Paul, who is he? So Deacon John Paul is a youth coordinator for the Carlton Road Church. He is responsible for managing the activities and the projects for the youth committee of the church. It is summer and it's especially busy for the youth activities, vacation Bible school, camps, band practices, and special outreach events. And this can be very overwhelming with planning these events. So how can he keep in touch with his volunteers and keep track of the progress of tasks on each project? And this is not the only thing that he has to do. He is also the CEO of his own hardware company, and this caused him to spend hours of each day on the phone trying to keep on top of the youth committee. He wants these events to be very successful this year, but the ministry is taking a toll on him. So how can he be more effective with his church commitments and still have time for his business? So let's ask the team how they can help John Paul in achieving this task. Well, being successful in this task. So let's hand over to our front-end designer, Dimitri Johnson.
Okay, thanks a lot, Philip. Okay, guys, so I'm Dimitri. I did a lot of the work related to the design of the app, basically, and a lot of the front-end stuff. So a lot of what you're seeing right here is what I worked on. Okay, so let's get into the design that John Paul would see and logging into the app. But what you would see, first of all, is a list of projects that we can see right here. Up here, we have an image. That would be the first thing displayed on the app. So you could get an idea of what this specific project is about. So each of these are projects right here. You can just scroll down and you see the different projects. Okay, you can see the description of each project right here, underneath right here, and you can see a title over here. Up here you can see the date that you would set for the project. Over here, importantly, for example, down here, you would see the number of people that are added to the project. You could see a delete button right here to delete a project or you could edit project. And over here we have a chat icon that you could use to start a chat for the project. So importantly, now we have this task button. Will bring us to a number of tasks being done within this project. So now right now we can look at this project. We have 2 tasks right here. So okay, so this is what the task screen would look like. You would go there and you would see a number of people being added to the project. So basically, you would add project, and Mr. John Paul would see he would be able to add a person to this project, to this task right here, and another person and another 2 persons. But these persons would have to be added to the task first. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the process for creating a task. We'll just click that button right there. For John Paul, he could add a title right here. Yeah. He would add a description and add some details, and he'd come right here and add some persons to the project. Okay, so we could add both Javier and John Paul to this project. We'll just click this right here to select those persons, and then we'll click this right here to complete the creation of the task. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's what it would look like for us to create a task. And also we could slide these left to right or right to left. On the left we have the ability to edit the task, and John Paul could also delete the task by sliding over here. Okay. Okay. I guess we now could look into the chat function. John Paul would use the chat function, but let's switch over to Javier and he'll tell us more about that.
Okay. So now, Deacon John Paul, he wants to keep up to date with his team members, his project members. He wants to be able to communicate with them and, get some progress updates on whatever is going on. So, as you can see, he has a couple projects working on. There's games night planning and vacation Bible school. So let's say he wants to communicate with his team members on what's going on with Vacation Bible School, how the preparations are coming along. What you can do is click this chat icon right here, and he'll be taken to a chat screen. So what you can see here is a bit of conversation already going on. Brad Stewart, that's one of his project members so far. And Deacon, he can just type and say, for example, how is everything coming along? And once Deacon hit this chat icon, that message will be sent to everyone who is also within this project that he's working on. And with this feature, it'll give him a great way of managing and keeping up to date with his project members. This also goes for every single project that's here. There's a chat room for each one of those, and he can always keep up to date. Whenever a message is sent, he will get an alert about what's going on with that project. So yes, Deacon, he's getting closer to being able to manage his tasks and projects well. I'll now hand over back to Philip, and he'll take us to the rest of the presentation.
Great. Thanks again, Javier, for giving us that quite insightful demo on what's on the Quito app. So you are able to see that we have created the Quito app in just 3 months after not knowing anything at all about the systems that we will need to use. Yeah, about the systems that we will need to use and all the things that we will need to learn over the time. But as you can see, we were able to learn quite a lot over the 3 months. But in the earlier designs, you could see our progress as we go along. So this was an example of our previous login screen comparing to the one that is seen before, which is very basic. It's a basic design. Nothing really works yet in this background at the time. This was an example of our project screen as well. And this shows our process as we were able to get information from volunteers and persons who volunteered to use our app, right? And from those persons who have volunteered, we were able to get very insightful information on how to make it better and more user-friendly to those persons. And that is evident in the current rotation of the app. But let's continue on what we have learned throughout these 3 months. And the first thing we want to talk about is the mobile development, because that's a quite big section of this task. And we will transfer over to Dimitri once again, talk about what we have done in mobile development.
Okay, so for mobile development, our main tool we chose to use was Flutter. Flutter is a Google-based language that uses what we call widgets to design a user interface for the app. It's very intuitive because how widgets work is that, for example, you have an image widget, and inside of that you have an icon widget, and you could program basically different tasks for the image and different abilities for each icon. And so you could manage the color and all of that kind of stuff with a widget. So yeah, some stuff like that. And also, yeah, we also use Firebase, which was an important part of the task. So now I'll switch over to Javier for him to tell us about that.
Now, as Dimitri stated before, Flutter, the framework, and well, the Dart was the programming language. So Flutter was developed by Google, and so it makes sense that other frameworks or technologies developed by Google would also work well with Flutter. Firebase especially is one of these tools. Now, what Firebase is, it provides a easy backend implementation which you can use to manage the app. It's quite easy to integrate with the Flutter programming language, with Flutter framework, and it provides some really nice features that we've benefited well from while undergoing our development. We've also used some of Flutter's features for experimental testing of the app, such as giving notifications. So that's just one of the things that we've learned. We can also continue by talking about how we've managed to collaborate on this task. Now, as you know, the Calico challenge, it allows us to work from home. Now, how will we do that unless we have somewhere to collaborate on our project, right? What we've managed to do without prior knowledge of this technology, we managed to learn about how to use Git and GitHub, which is an online collaboration platform for developers, where we could manage our code and keep track of our progress. We learn techniques such as version control for our releases or app releases. We learn source control for code changes, any code changes. As I said previously mentioned, we were allowed to release daily prototypes of our application as we go along. We've also made a bit of documentation via the GitHub feature called the GitHub Wiki, which you can also see in our GitHub repository. Now, especially a good feature that GitHub provides is a tracker for how much each person has been involved in this project over the time period. This especially graph is mine, as you can see. It shows, how active I've been over the program. Well, all of us really, Dimitri as well, and even our mentor, David Bain, right? So yeah, he is also one of the main reasons we got into learning about all these cool features that GitHub provides. And we can also, this here is the daily releases page that I mentioned previously. And as well as, it keeps track of our releases and our documentation. This is a snapshot of our documentation online as well. And I'll hand over back now to Philip, and he will continue with what we have learned.
Great. Thanks again, Javier and Dimitri, for all that information on what happens on the front-end design. But of course, all systems, if it has a front-end design, it needs some kind of backend to provide all that information or that structure to keep it up and running. So there are two systems that we use, and the first one is called Docker. And Docker allows packages to be portable, right? So it packs all the So to backtrack a little, let's give you a good example of what Docker is. So you could think of Docker as a car. And with Docker, all the pieces of the car is packed in one package. So if you need to use that car, you can easily just run that container or to get the car out of the container. And all the moving parts of the car would be functional out of the box. So that caused Docker to be portable. So all the moving parts is in one place. So you don't have to worry if one part is on a different server or it's on some other place or it's at the port. All the parts are in one place. It also is very portable because since all the parts are in one place and it's in a container, then you can easily move those parts to different locations, and then you're able to use the system out of the box with no problem or with little knowledge of what's happening on the inside of the container. Final thing is that it's easy to create a Quito server with this. It's easy for the system administrator. So all this easy for developers and it's very portable. It's also very important to be very easy to the system administrator. So because it's easy to run the system out of the box without having to know, it's very easy to pull up a Quito server. And the next thing that we have learned is how to have version control. Well, it's version controlling, as my fellow developer said before, Javier. So version controlling is done with this project in both GitHub, the GitHub repository, and also the Docker Hub. So the Docker Hub, we're able to link the GitHub repository to the Docker Hub, and it will create different containers based on the versions that we have. So one example is the latest version, which is marked with the tag latest. So whoever wants to use Quito Core can use a tag latest to get the latest version of Quito Core software. And as you can see, that was uploaded 24 hours ago. So you're able to see the time and all the different versions. And this will allow easeability, well, very feasible to install. The second piece is the backend server. So, or the structure of the Quito project, right? So the structure of the Quito project is shown in an illustration on the left. So the Quito project is fed by Plone and Mattermost, which provides a RESTful API. And that RESTful API is able to send information to and from the Flutter app, and then you're able to easily manipulate all those information online. So if you lose some information on your phone, then you don't have to worry because it's all online and it is all managed by the Plone RESTful API, which manage the projects, and the Mattermost server, which is also an open source project, which controls the chat-based functionalities for the app. So that we have learned quite a lot during the summer, and this will help us in going further in our studies at university and even in our life coming along, because these are very important practices that is sometimes not even taught at the university level, especially with version controlling and using repositories and collaborating on projects. And that's a very crucial factor in development. So the things that we need to get done for the current coming year. So I'll transfer that to our next developer, Dimitri Johnson.
Okay, guys, so let's go through what we could have done differently. What are some features that are really, we attempted a lot of features, we went through a lot of things, but some things ultimately we couldn't have added them into this release that we're seeing today. So one of those was more defining of the UX from the beginning. Yeah, so what we did was we actually had a very basic design of the user interface from the beginning. We had to make it up as we went along. So a lot of changes had to be made until we ended up with something that was usable. But it could have been done better from the beginning, really though. So that could have been worked out more as early on. So that would be a good thing to add in next year, I guess. The ability to save data online. I spent a lot of time looking into that, how to do that, but ultimately I ran into some errors that I didn't get the chance to fix them. So that could be addressed next year. And what that really means is, for example, you could be adding a project, but you're not really there at the, and you don't really have an internet connection at the given time. So you wouldn't be able to upload it. But yeah, we would want to be able to do that soon. So that could be added in the next release as well. More could be done to look into that. Also, there's no form checking, so like you can really just type in any type of information I want. If it asks for email, it doesn't really check if it's an email. So you can just type in anything for email. So yeah, we could do more to fix that in the future release. And yes, notifications don't work. So for example, you create a task or you create a project and add people to it. They wouldn't really know that they were added to this project because they don't really get notifications on their phone, so they'd have to. In this current release, they'll have to just go onto the app and look at the app just to see if they've been added to a project. So this, yeah, you won't be able to do that in this version. So that also could be looked into. Yes, I was also looking into displaying more useful information about the project itself, because I didn't get enough time really to fix how that would work out really. So we could go to the users and ask them what type of information they would want to be displayed in the app. So, for example, if they would like to see have notes, or if they would like to see who did what amount of work and who did work on time, and keep statistics on those basically. So that's an idea I'm proposing to be added to the next version. Also, one of the very important things that we need to add into the next version is more user feedback. So the app is at a point now that we could easily bring it to people, bring it to a test group, and like find out from them what they would want to be added into that. So that's very important. We need that to be added into the next version. Okay. Now I'm switching over to Javier.
There's also a next issue that I'd like to address. As Dimitri stated, currently the app doesn't provide any way of notifying a person once they're outside of the app about whether they've received a new chat about a project or whether they've been added to a project. This is due to the reason because we tried implementing what is known as a Mattermost push proxy, which would issue the push notifications once this app is being installed and the person has been logged in. We've tried this for quite a while. We spent a lot of time on it, but sadly we couldn't get it fully functional for this release. We're hoping eventually, at some point in the future, this feature will be added because it will greatly improve the user experience and how useful the app is to each person. As we continue, I'd like to hand over back to Philip, and he'll take us through.
Great, man. Yeah, man. So thanks again, Javier and Dimitri. And as you might guess, we are almost to the end of our presentation, and I'd like to thank you all for staying with us. So to conclude all of what we have said, I would like to thank especially the sponsors for giving us the opportunity to be able to code over the summer and learn all of these interesting frameworks and application and different programming methods that you can use during the process. And my personal highlight during this summer is, well, before I even get to my personal highlight, so to reiterate, so I was the backend person for the project. So I was the person responsible for the server API and the Mattermost API and the Docker. And previously, I wasn't fully versed in using the APIs and also with using Mattermost or Plone. So this was all new to me. And Plone as well had little documentations online, so it might make it also push me to wanting to talk in the communities to get additional information from different developers all around the world. And I've surely learned a lot during that process, speaking with other developers as well as getting help from my mentors and speaking with the team. In addition to that, I've also been very high. Well, another thing that was quite insightful was the need for documentation. As before, I normally think of documentation as the thing that is least important. And after working with this project, I've realized how important documentation can be, and documentation and how much it can help in the process when creating an app and transferring it over to another person to take the button for the next year or the next 2 years or next month. And as you might know, this is a project that is going to continue after continue next year and the year after, and then those persons will need to know what we have done. So documentation for me was quite a wake-up call, as I would need to ensure that that documentation is very readable and understandable for the other developers coming along. So I would like to, I'll transfer also to Javier again to state his points on the conclusion.
Right. So my highlight was I'm a person who likes to learn new things, new programming languages, new frameworks, things that are helpful. You know, I got the opportunity to learn a completely new programming language as well as one of its major frameworks, Dart and Flutter. I got the opportunity to learn this in about 3 weeks or a month thereabout and set this up and got this project on the run. You know, I learned a lot of things about mobile development, about backend development in some sense, and it was all thanks to Calico project and as well as our mentor, David Bain. So yeah, I'm really thankful. I really enjoyed this experience. You know, let's hear what Dimitri has to say.
Okay, so thanks, David. One of my highlights was the user experience, really, to get to actually design a user experience. Because what I see a lot of in Jamaica, if you actually look into the Play Store and see some of those Jamaican apps that people are putting on now, they're not the best designed in terms of looks. Yeah, I think that could improve a lot, and I'm glad that I was able to actually jump in now and actually design something that was good looking. That was important to me, to put out something like that. And I finally got to it. I've always wanted to get into app development, and this was a good experience for me. It turned out better than I was expecting. So thanks a lot, Calico. Thanks, sponsors. Okay.
Great. Thanks again, guys. So we were able to learn quite a lot over this 3-month period, and we were able to do quite a lot over this 3-month period, more than I actually thought I was going to be doing at all, well, in terms of the work volume. But it was quite exciting learning. I'm a person who loves to learn, and it's quite really good to be able to use different software, especially Flutter. Flutter is a very new software, and to be able to have first-hand experience with it, and it being so valuable, being able to compare to both Apple and Android, and almost wanting to kick React out of the game, I think it's I think that's quite a good skill to get, and Calico was able to give us that opportunity to take advantage of that skill. So I'd like to thank you all again for coming and for listening to us. And also thanks again, sponsors, for putting your time and your money into this project, and to us for us to have this opportunity. So thanks again. Finally, I would like to ask if anyone have any questions for us.
Yes, this is
For the
Peter
last
Harrison.
I
do have a question. When you were trying to figure out exactly what sort of features were going to be required, what sort of interaction did you have with potential end users to get feedback for what those features would be?
Great, thanks again. Oh, great. Thanks again for that question. So we were able to show the app to persons who will be in the area, which is persons from churches, and to see what kind of feedback they would give us in regards to the design, or how the app might feel, or the usability of the app. And as I was able to show in earlier on in the presentation, that a prototype was able to be created, as well as we were able to get to another interviewee in the middle of the process. So we're able to fix the app, or to modify the app to properly represent what the user would want. Yeah, from the user feedbacks. Great, thanks. Any other question? Hello. Yeah, so our next question that has been burdening me is, what's really next for Quito? So what's going to happen next for Quito, really?
I guess I could, since I haven't said much, we have had some kind of exploratory discussions. And one of the visions for the Quito team is, how can we take it to the point where we can hand it to churches and maybe even other organizations that may find this particular functionality useful. As you know, there's a bit of a to-do list of things that might need to be fixed. And one of the visions is, could we have one or two persons continue with the work, maybe over the next couple of months, next year into summer, so that we can actually have, the Quito project and be able to launch it and allow the first churches to start making use of it. One of the things that Dimitri mentioned was more user testing. That's something I'd like to see. I would like to see putting the app in front of more and more persons who represent the target audience, and just seeing how do they react to the app. What features should we be keeping? What features are maybe non-negotiable? One person we put it in front of said they would love to be able to keep notes in the context of a project, or maybe even the context of a task. So you can say, oh, these are little important notes related to this project. And that's something that we took notes, and we're keeping track of some of these things. And I'd love to see more of these user interactions to get more and more user feedback, and then translate that into a better app. So from my perspective as the mentor, those are what some of the things I think are next. But back to you, Phillip.
Great, thanks again. So is there any other question? Yeah. There was the next question that I have to continue is, I've realized that there was no login screen. So I was wondering if there was a login screen we'll be able to show. So I don't know.
I can take this one. Yes, to answer, I'm Javier. Yes, to answer your question, Phillip, there is a login screen. So Deacon John Paul initially had been logged in, as you can see, into the app. So now, if he should just log out, right, he'll be presented with our new login screen. And as you can see here. So all it had to do was type in his credentials. But let's say I'm not Deacon John Paul. I'm someone else. I'm, say, Brad Stewart. So I'm logging. I'm also working with Deacon John Paul, and I'd like to see what's going on with the projects. So if I log in, type in my username. Oh, Brad Stewart, right. Well, that could have been beneficial. So right, and he lets me now enter my password. I'd like no one to see my password, so let me just enter it. Oh, I'm not logging. So it's telling me that I have entered wrong username and password. So let me see. My name is right. So let me just see what my password is. Okay, that's not my password. Let me just correct that. Right, and now I'm logged into the app and I can see what's been going on with my church.
And he has less projects than
and right, as you can see.
because those are the ones he is on.
Yeah, so
Right.
Brad Stewart has only really been assigned to those projects. So those are the only ones he can see.
Right.
Also, we didn't go into how your other project. That would be this screen right here. It's a very similar setup to how you would create a task. So you would add an image right here, add a number of persons, you could add a start and end date, and it's a similar process. A title, description, and all that. You just press the tick one to fit to actually create it. Yeah. Yeah. So Brad Stewart, he's assigned to this with only one task. Yeah, and that's not done as it, but if it's planning for suppose it's done, he could just press this done button right here and then click confirm. So notice why we had that confirm pop-up come up. So sometimes you're using an app and maybe you wouldn't want thing to just jump on at the same time.
Dimitri is enjoying the app that he's built. Back to Phillip.
Come on, great. Thanks again, guys, for that quite interesting thing. So you can see that the login screen has had some improvements compared to the last one from the prototype. So I would like to ask, is there any other questions first? Great. So I guess that's a no. So I'd like to thank you all for coming and joining our presentation, as it wouldn't be a presentation if you didn't have people to actually present to. So thanks again our sponsors, thanks again Peter Harrison and our team, and all the persons who are part of Calico, and yeah, kudos. Thanks.
I just want to let everybody to know that the entire presentation has been recorded and will be placed on YouTube sometime in the future.